Am I the antagonist for blaming my dad for how bad things are at his house and saying he should give up on things improving? So my dad was with his wife for 6 years before they got married, and they had a daughter together named Chantel, 17 years old, female. They broke up when she was a baby, and during that time, my dad started dating my mom. By the time I was born, 15 years old male, my parents were already broken up. By the time I turned 1, my dad was dating Chantel's mom again. She was jealous and hated the fact that my dad had a child with another woman, my mom. She despised my mom for giving my dad a son. Things between the three of them were bad. However, my dad still ended up marrying her, even though my mom went to court and ordered them to communicate through email in order to reduce the hostility I was exposed to. The court agreed with my mom. I don't like my dad's wife. She never made it a secret how much she hated my mom, but at the same time, she tried to claim me as her own son. On more than one occasion, she asked me why I didn't call her mom and why I didn't invite her to participate in Mother's Day celebrations. She even suggested that I should spend more Mother's Days with them and would badmouth my mom when I said no. Chantel and I despise each other. She would pick fights with me because of her mom. It was always about how I didn't appreciate her mom enough, how I upset her mom, or how my mom was promiscuous and I shouldn't be loyal to her. For a long time, I think Chantel believed I was the result of an affair, not just a breakup. She only realized the truth when it came out that her mom had an abortion during their parents' breakup because her mom got pregnant by another guy. It's a whole other messy situation. My dad hates that Chantel and I aren't close. He hates that we don't love each other. And it's true, we don't. I don't think we ever did love each other, and if we did, it's been so long that I can't even remember it. We try to avoid each other whenever possible. We don't acknowledge each other as siblings to other people. When I talk about my family, I usually only mention my mom. This is something else that Chantel hates because she feels that her mom should be acknowledged and so on. My dad is like an observer in all of this. He sees everything happening, always has all the information, but he doesn't really think logically. Then he'll cry about how much he hates the way things are. A few days ago, he wanted to hang out with me and expressed how much he hates that Chantel and I aren't close. He said we're siblings and we should be supporting each other. He even said that he wished my mom had intervened more and done better to ensure that I was fully integrated into his family. I hated hearing him say that, so I told him that it was his fault everything turned out this way, not my mom's fault. I reminded him that he chose to be with my mom after he and his wife broke up before, and he chose to date her again and marry her, knowing that she was jealous of his child with someone else. I told him to take responsibility for his choices and accept that things won't change between Chantel and me. My dad lost his temper. He started saying that I should be more respectful and willing to help make things better for our family. I decided to go back to my mom's place early because he was still angry. Now he's asking for an apology. Am I the asshole? It seems like you have been caught in the middle of a complicated and difficult family situation. It is not your responsibility to ensure that you and your stepsister have a close relationship, especially considering the history of hostility and animosity between your parents and stepfamily. Your dad made choices that have contributed to the strained relationship between all of you, and it is unfair for him to put the blame on you or your mom. Furthermore, your feelings and boundaries should be respected. It is understandable that you do not want to refer to your dad's wife as your mom or include her in Mother's Day celebrations, especially if she has been disrespectful towards your mom. It is important for your dad to acknowledge and respect your emotions and not force a relationship that doesn't feel genuine to you. It might be helpful for your family to seek therapy or counseling in order to navigate through these complex dynamics and improve communication. Ultimately, it is up to each individual to determine the level of involvement and closeness they want to have with others, and it is not your obligation to change for the sake of your dad's desires. Am I the antagonist for going on vacation when my in-laws visit? My husband and I have been married for 23 years. I've always had a difficult relationship with my sister-in-law because she has expressed her preference for my husband's college girlfriend over me. Though we never became close, we were friendly enough to text and occasionally hang out when one of us visited the other. Last year, my father-in-law fell ill and required specialized care. My husband wanted him to live with us during treatment and recovery, and I agreed. However, my sister-in-law made it clear that she didn't want him at her house. I reduced my work hours to become his primary caregiver. While it wasn't enjoyable, I was glad to care for my father-in-law and facilitate quality time between him and my husband. Unfortunately, my in-laws, especially my sister-in-law, became increasingly problematic. Both my brother-in-law and sister-in-law were in denial about their father's health. Whenever my father-in-law had appointments, I would update everyone through a text chain for convenience. I refrained from making decisions on his behalf out of respect for my husband and his relationship with his father. However, my sister-in-law and brother-in-law started treating me like staff. For instance, when my father-in-law needed to go to a skilled rehab facility after a hospital stay, I researched and called various facilities. When I shared my findings, my sister-in-law responded with, "We'll discuss it as a family and get back to you." It seemed as if I didn't belong to the family. Instances like this increased, and neither my brother-in-law nor sister-in-law made an effort to visit their dying father. When I shared my feelings occasionally, my sister-in-law dismissively told me that it wasn't my concern and suggested I occupy myself with something trivial. Eventually, my father-in-law passed away, and I severed contact with my in-laws. There was no confrontation. I simply stopped responding to the group chat and refused to actively partake in their lives. I made my husband responsible for shopping for gifts and handling cards without involving me. Though my husband wasn't thrilled about the distance, he understood my perspective and agreed to keep our relationship separate from theirs. A few weeks ago, my sister-in-law apologized via text, acknowledging her denial about my father-in-law's condition and expressing hope that I'm doing well. I responded, appreciating her apology and commendable efforts to reflect on the situation, but I didn't initiate further conversation. Now my sister-in-law wants to visit and stay with us for a few days. I told my husband that she's welcome to stay, but during that time, I will be visiting my best friend. My husband was surprised and expressed his sadness that I have no desire to engage with her, insisting that it's unrealistic for me to avoid her indefinitely. However, I genuinely don't want to have any association with individuals who don't consider me part of the family. So am I in the wrong here? You have been dealing with mistreatment from your sister-in-law for years, and it's understandable that you don't want to have a close relationship with someone who has consistently shown disrespect towards you. Your decision to cut off contact and not engage with your in-laws after your FIL's passing is completely valid. You have made it clear that your husband can maintain his own relationship with them if he chooses to, but you have the right to set boundaries and prioritize your own well-being. It's reasonable for you to decline hosting your sister-in-law and choose to spend time with your best friend instead. Overall, your choices and feelings are valid, and you have the right to protect yourself from toxic relationships. Am I the antagonist for not stopping my sister-in-law from annoying my mother? My 18-year-old mother is a classic nightmare mother-in-law to my sister-in-law Stephanie, who is 23 years old. Steph married my oldest brother Nathan, who is 30 years old in May. It was an arranged marriage orchestrated by my dad and Steph's dad. My mom thinks Steph is vain. She's just gorgeous. Lazy, she's a stay-at-home wife. Too westernized, she's American, and so on. I am very close to my sister-in-law, as she feels like an older sister to me since my actual older sister is 32. I don't really get along with my mom either because I'm bisexual and she thinks I'm too wild, meaning I leave the house for reasons other than school. Stephanie lets me stay at her and Nate's house whenever my mom becomes too much, which is great because before Steph, Nate was too scared to get on our mom's bad side, laughing my ass off. During wedding planning, my mom tried to control Steph using sneaky methods, but what she didn't expect was Steph fighting back. Initially, Steph did nothing about my mom's actions and accepted the lack of control over her wedding. However, her stepmother advised her to stand up for herself. She pretended to have a health scare caused by the stress of dealing with my mom, she has heart issues, and used that as an excuse to uninvite my mom from all pre-wedding events. Nate has severe anxiety because of our mom's abuse, so I assume Steph doesn't want to stress him further with dealing with her. Plus, she finds it more enjoyable to handle her herself. Now, every mean thing my mom does to Steph is met with an equally snarky response. If my mom criticizes Steph's cooking, Steph will pretend my mom's food made her vomit. If my mom comments on Steph's weight as she's recovering from an eating disorder, Steph will invite my mom to the gym with her. My mom is overweight. If my mom criticizes Steph for being a stay-at-home wife without kids and spending all of her son's money, Steph will call my mom out on her abusive behavior. It's thrilling to see my mom finally put in her place after years of being unchecked. Stephanie's new tactic is decorating her house with fresh flowers, knowing my mom has hay fever, and then pretending to forget. She started doing this because my mom criticized her for using fake flowers to decorate. Yesterday, my family gathered at Nate's house for our weekly family dinner, and my mom was complaining about the flowers. When I was alone with my dad in the kitchen, he commented on how Steph must have a bad memory since she forgot about the hay fever issue. My other brother Kyle thought it was obvious that Steph was doing it on purpose and found it hilarious, which shocked my dad. I agreed with my brother, and my dad said it was wrong of us not to intervene and stop Steph from irritating our mom. He wants me to tell Steph to stop before he takes the matter to my mom. Am I the asshole? Your mother has consistently mistreated and belittled your sister-in-law, Stephanie, and it's understandable that Stephanie has chosen to respond in kind. She's found effective ways to deal with your mother's tactics, and it's refreshing to see someone stand up to her after years of unchecked abuse. Your father's expectations for you to intervene and ask Stephanie to stop her actions are unreasonable. This is a matter between your mother and Stephanie, and it's not your place to meddle or control Stephanie's behavior. Your mother needs to learn that her actions have consequences, and it's not your responsibility to shield her from the retaliation she receives. Supporting Stephanie and maintaining your close relationship with her is important, especially considering the strained relationship you have with your mother. It's understandable that you'd choose loyalty to Stephanie over catering to your father's wishes. Stand your ground and continue to support Stephanie in dealing with your mother's toxic behavior. Am I the antagonist for not wanting to provide food/serve food/cleanup at my ex's wedding? So, a bit of background before the main event. My ex and I split about 7 years ago but remained good friends. We are part of a group of friends that meet up around 4 times a year. Back in early summer, we were invited to my ex's birthday party. My fiancé and I arrived, And the first thing that happened was that we were excitedly introduced to his new girlfriend whom he had been on 3 dates with in as many weeks. We thought it was a bit early for introductions and that the whole situation was a bit weird and intense, but he's always been very emotionally immature, so I wasn't that surprised. But I digress. I'm not here to judge his love life. Anyway, literally 2 months later, we got the message that they were getting married, and the wedding was this coming weekend, so in about 2.5 months at the time. Again, we thought it was a bit strange, a bit fast, and a bit weird, but again, it's his life. Who are we to judge? The one thing that irritated me about the whole thing was that they had a gift list filled with the most stupidly expensive items. I mean, we're already having to travel to the event, drive for over an hour between the ceremony and reception, stay at a hotel, and I'm having to bring my own food due to a dietary requirement that can't be catered for. The cheapest thing on the list was about 85 pounds. Anyway, 2 days ago, exactly a week before the big day, I received an email asking if I could bring a large homemade cake that was also vegan and gluten-free. I was also informed that I was expected to serve the food, clean up after the food, make teas and coffees, and wash up as my contribution to help out. Now, there's absolutely nothing wrong with keeping costs down and asking people to bring food for a bring and share, even though technically due to my dietary requirements, I can't share. However, I thought that a week's notice was really cheeky. I also think that it's really bad to ask your guests to serve food and clean up at your wedding. My partner is furious, and both of us are now seriously considering not attending. I've spoken to some of our mutual friends, and everybody has been asked to do similar things, and nobody is thrilled, but everyone else seems to be going along with it to keep the peace. I really want to see my friends next weekend, and TBH, I do have a fear of missing out on the event, but I'm so annoyed with my ex for being so tight and not actually providing food staff, but still expecting an expensive gift. Am I the asshole here? Should I just suck it up and go along with it? I wasn't going to make a big fuss on the day or anything. I'm generally quite passive, and I wouldn't deliberately spoil the day for him. Am I overreacting though? It seems like your ex and his new partner are being quite unreasonable with their requests. Asking guests to bring a large homemade cake, especially one that's vegan and gluten-free, with only a week's notice is quite inconsiderate. Additionally, expecting guests to serve and clean up at the wedding is not appropriate. Considering the extensive costs and efforts you're already making to attend the wedding, it's understandable that you feel frustrated. If you and your partner are seriously considering not attending, it might be worth discussing your concerns with your ex first. You can express your annoyance and see if any compromises can be made. Ultimately, the decision is yours, but it's important to prioritize your own needs and feelings in this situation. Am I the antagonist for skating at a Renaissance fair and humiliating my boyfriend? I, 21-year-old female, started dating my boyfriend, 28-year-old male, 1 year ago after we connected over our shared love for skating and Renaissance fairs. I know it's pretty random, but that's part of why we were attracted to each other. He always complimented me on my skating skills, and I loved his passion for both the sport and historical festivals. I would say I'm not great at making costumes, but I'm a pretty good skater. When my boyfriend and I first started dating, I felt like he genuinely respected my ability to shred. However, recently I've noticed a change in his behavior. He no longer wants to practice together and has started ignoring me. Once he even told me he had to go see an anesthesiologist, but I later saw him practicing at our local skate park without me. I understand that he doesn't have to practice with me, but I was hurt that he lied. The only notable event that occurred before this change was when we participated in a regional skating competition together. I ended up placing in our event, but my boyfriend remained quiet the entire time and only gave me one congratulations before disappearing. He didn't text me for 2 days even after I called him, and his behavior has been strange ever since. Our disagreement stemmed from the Renaissance fair we recently attended. Last year, my boyfriend showered me with compliments for my costume, but this year he didn't say a single positive thing and instead focused on pointing out anachronisms. While I appreciate constructive feedback to help me improve, I felt a bit deflated by his immediate criticisms. At the Renaissance fairs, our unique thing is skateboarding in our costumes. People find it entertaining, and many take pictures or videos of us. It can be overwhelming, but I usually enjoy it and play along. This year, I was particularly excited because of my recent victory, so I may have been showing off a bit more than usual. To be fair, there were many young girls who were excited to see me on my skateboard, and they asked me a lot of questions, so naturally I wanted to help them. However, my boyfriend started scolding me while driving me back to my apartment after the event, claiming that I had humiliated him. He said that people were pointing, whispering, and that several girls were laughing at him. I was taken aback because I didn't think people were paying attention to him at all. Honestly, while I was interacting with others and posing for pictures, he was standing 10 feet away on his phone. I don't even know if people knew we were in a relationship, but my boyfriend was genuinely upset about it and suggested that, as an apology, I give up skating for 3 months. I'm turning to you for advice. If I'm the one at fault, I'll go through with it and apologize. It appears that your boyfriend's behavior has changed recently, and he has been giving you the cold shoulder, lying about practicing without you, and criticizing you unnecessarily. Furthermore, he is demanding that you give up something you are passionate about as an apology for something that doesn't seem to be your fault. Relationships should be built on mutual respect, support, and understanding. Your boyfriend's behavior is not displaying these qualities. It is important to have open and honest communication with your partner, so you may want to sit down and talk to him about how his actions and words have made you feel. Additionally, it might be helpful to discuss whether there are any underlying issues in the relationship that need to be addressed. Would I be the antagonist for petitioning the courts for custody of my niece and nephew? I'm a 35-year-old woman, and I have a brother named Nathan who is 37 years old. Unfortunately, Nathan's wife Sarah passed away 9 months ago due to a drunk driving incident. They have 2 children together, Millie, who is 6 years old, and Ryan, who is 9 years old. Since Sarah's passing, my husband Justin, 42M, and I have been assisting my brother in taking care of our niece and nephew. We have 3 children of our own, and it has been great for the cousins to spend more time together. Around 6 months ago, Nathan started dating a woman named Brittany, who is 26 years old, and they are planning to get married in the first weekend of November. Lately, Nathan has been leaving the kids with us for overnight stays, even on school nights, so he and Brittany can have some time to relax. This has been happening about 4 or 5 nights a week. I understand that everyone grieves differently, but this seems too fast to me. Millie and Ryan are also having a tough time adjusting, especially since Brittany has moved in and started removing pictures of their mother. Nathan has asked her not to do this, but she continues to insist, saying things like, "It's time." Nathan and I have always had a close relationship, and Sarah was like a sister to me. I have spoken to him a few times about moving too quickly with Brittany, and suggested that he take a step back and allow their relationship to develop naturally. I told him that if he truly believes Brittany is the one, then waiting a little longer before getting married shouldn't make a difference. Additionally, I've talked to him about the importance of stability for Millie and Ryan, as they are still dealing with their emotions and processing everything. He felt that bringing up the kids crossed a line and thought he was doing his best. Yesterday, Brittany mentioned to my husband and me that once they have a baby, Millie and Ryan would have to stay with us permanently so that Nathan wouldn't show favoritism. I looked at Nathan and expressed that it wasn't appropriate to have this conversation within earshot of the children. Brittany disregarded my concern, stating that she didn't care and wasn't looking forward to being a stepmother to the 2 brats. Millie and Ryan are wonderful kids, but they have already been through a lot with their mother's loss, and now Brittany moving in and preparing to marry Nathan. I asked Nathan if we could talk privately, but Brittany interrupted, insisting that anything I had to say to him, I could say to her as well. Against my better judgment, I agreed and said, "Fine. You are overstepping your boundaries in this family and using my brother as a source of financial support. The kids should be the priority here." It seemed like Brittany was about to explode. She started yelling at me, calling me selfish for not wanting my brother to be happy. I told her that it was time for her to grow up and realize that the world doesn't revolve around her. Nathan then accused me of crossing the line and played the "that's my fiancé" card before storming out with Brittany, leaving the kids behind. He hasn't checked in on them since. At this point, I am having doubts about my brother's judgment, and I am reluctant to continue keeping the kids with us. However, Justin and I feel like we don't have another choice. We want to ensure the safety and stability of Millie and Ryan. Would it be wrong of me to seek custody for them? You are not the AH for considering petitioning for custody. Your concerns for the well-being and stability of your niece and nephew are valid. It seems like Nathan is rushing into a new relationship and neglecting the emotional needs of his children in the process. Your conversation with Nathan and Brittany was tense, but you were advocating for the kids and expressing your concerns. Their reaction was defensive and inappropriate. It's concerning that Nathan hasn't checked in on the children after storming out, which further supports your concerns about his judgment and priorities. Before making a decision about petitioning for custody, it would be beneficial to discuss the situation with a family law attorney who can guide you through the process and help you understand your rights and options. Additionally, it may be helpful to involve a family therapist or counselor who can work with the children to navigate their grief and the recent changes in their lives. Overall, your intention to prioritize the safety and stability of your niece and nephew is commendable, and seeking professional advice is a responsible next step. Thanks for watching. When you subscribe, make sure to hit the bell to turn on notifications so you never miss a video. To finish listening to all the stories, check out the playlist in the description.